throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Count with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
And a good Monday morning out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM. The Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. We can get into multiple different things. NCAA football, what is going on at Michigan? Jim Harbaugh thought he had a deal for a 4-game suspension. Turns out the Committee on Infractions wasn't kosher with that. So now where does this stand? Will he avoid everything in 2023 because of the process taking too long? Turns out he said it was about a cheeseburger. That ain't the case. Interesting stuff at Michigan. It's a huge day on the recruiting trail. And at least with the way the momentum started last night, is it going to be another sad day in Norman when it comes to recruiting top-tier defensive linemen? Will this be the third straight cycle in which it seemed like the Sooners were going to land one of those big guys up front that everybody thinks is the difference, just to come up second? Will Winery, St. Louis Lee Summit High School, announcing at 3 o'clock today. It seems like Oklahoma's been in the driver's seat of this recruitment for the entire time, but maybe not now. Or is it just a bunch of smokescreen? You never know with this stuff, right? I mean, you never know. And we'll get to it, but I want to caution everyone from flying off the handle because it's still a long way from December. NFL preseason, kind of the first time we got to see everybody this weekend. What were your thoughts? What stood out? I have a question, Jared. Is Stetson Bennett an NFL quarterback?
I'm trying to gauge what you really think. I don't know.
I'm not sure either.
I don't know.
I'll
he's
tell you
closer to retirement age than most quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, but all he did at Georgia was, walk on and lead the Dogs to 2 straight national titles. Of course, with the way they were loaded, he's never going to get the credit that maybe he deserves. But, man, is he an NFL quarterback? Aaron Rodgers is the biggest storyline, I think, across the league this offseason. But for the Jets, the people buying Jets stock, it looks like a pretty good investment with the way that the defensive line, man alive, look out. They have dudes that rush the passer. And also maybe a little bit of a cautionary tale for those that are in love with Bryce Young and Carolina being the winner of that NFC South. It may be one of those not so fast, my friends. Bryce Young can be however good he wants to be, but if he can't throw the football because he's on his back, we may be realizing there's a problem, not just the quarterback at Carolina. There's other things there, but don't overreact. U.S. Amateur starts today. Plenty of local flavor up in Colorado, Cherry Hills. So it's 312 participants, 2 days of stroke play that then qualify the top 64 for the match play portion of the competition. Half the field will play Cherry Hills, which is the main side of this thing. The other half will play Colorado Golf Club, and that is where we find one Ryder Cowan teeing off later on this afternoon. He plays Colorado Golf Club first and then Cherry Hills tomorrow for the 2 rounds of stroke play. Also, some familiar names if you've been around the KECO as well that are in this, that have played in our tournament a whole bunch of times. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also, what in the world happened this weekend with the weather? 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. That is 9698. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We can talk about any of those things or whatever else might be on your mind. Feel free to chime right in at 225-9698. Going to be outside the listening area. Stay in touch with the show a couple of ways. Log on to kadsam.com or download the app. Paragon app is free, and it's got it all. Radio, Penny News, Big Elk and Paragon TV are on there as well. We'll get that kicked off here shortly. I mean, when we come in here next Monday, Jared, it's game week. Feels like game week out there right now. The beautiful weather. The temperature is nice and cool. And then you can find the Skinny on Sports podcast wherever podcasts drop. So if you miss the show, you can go back and check that out anywhere you get podcasts. How are you today, Jared?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. What a wild, wild weekend for August of weather. It had everything that you would expect out of August. Just blistering hot. Maybe a little bit more humidity than normal. But then for 3 days straight, just the craziness of Friday was nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I didn't expect that to really be anything. Because when I looked at the weather, I did my weekend weather. It was here. It was about 4:30, and it said 30% chance. I mean, I don't trust anything that's lower than 50, so I thought, not gonna happen. And then that happened. That's crazy. More limbs down in my area. I know there's some rough stuff in the Elk City area too on Friday night.
Yeah, so I was at the golf course. The horse race for the couples tournament had started and was winding down when everybody had to stop and rush inside. And then all of a sudden, it was like you couldn't even see out the window. The wind was blowing so hard, and it was just howling, and the rain. Yeah, 70-plus mile per hour wind. Will said. Mother Nature did some pruning. Sam said, "I'll tell you what. I got a call from my wife because she was en route back home, and she was like, she got home. She said, 'What are you doing?' I said, 'Well, I mean, can't get out in this. I'll come get you whenever I can.' And she said, 'We got a new feature in our pool.' I was like, 'What?' Our neighbor's trampoline had flung over the fence into the pool. And so, like, at first you're like, yeah, whatever.
New pool toy.
Well, but then here's the thing. So Saturday, he comes over and I start looking. He had it tied down in 4 separate spots with not those little kind of skinny auger-looking deals. These things were like 2 foot tall and, I don't know, as big around in between, say, a golf ball and a ping pong ball. I mean, these things were, and it just ripped them all right out of the ground. 2 of which were still in the pool. 2 of them were still hanging on.
Wow.
That was incredible. I mean, just giant holes in his yard
Yeah.
from where that ripped it out. I mean, I can't believe that happened. But it was getting it now.
Yeah. Knocked our power out.
See, we avoided it Friday, Saturday, until last night. And then last night, it got ours.
Yeah, I saw that it had knocked power out here. But, we lost ours all the way to about 4 a.m. Saturday morning. So, fortunately, mother-in-law has a Generac generator, which I highly recommend, which every time this happens, I say I'm going to buy one, get it installed at my house. But we just went over to her house and slept there, hung out there. So we stayed cool. That was my main concern, staying cool, because I knew it was going to be humid.
Oh, man.
Then Saturday was weird. We did the media thing out at the football field, which was as hot and muggy as it can get. And I went home with the intention to mow, because that's what I was going to do Friday night. And I actually, even before the storm, said, you know what? It's 105. This is dangerous. I'm not going to do it. I'll mow on Saturday. I'll have time. Went home to do just that. And I could start to see rain build up. And then right at high noon, 1 o'clock, something like that, it started raining. Not crazy. But when it was done, I said, okay, this is my window. So it wasn't too wet, so I jumped on the mower and I mowed the lawn. And then Saturday night came. Brought us some more storms. Not as bad as Friday night or even last night. Last night, though, I had to come in and it was my night. So I'm driving in.
Yeah.
And I'm at home and I'm really monitoring this thing. And I saw it says special weather statement.
Yes.
That, okay, I'm just going to cut something from home and drop it in. It's not severe, but I'm just going to let people know we're watching it. And when in the middle of that, I'm watching my radar, then it switched to severe. Like, oh, I got to go. So I jump in the truck, start driving. It's fine when I left Canute. And then between Canute and Elk, it really whipped up. Like white knuckle, I'm grabbing on,
right.
Holding on. I'm seeing, and when I get to the east side of Elk City, I could tell there's no power. I can't see Loves. There's nothing. Driving down 7th Street, I'm dodging limbs that have already fallen and rivers of water in the road. Nothing to, And I get to the studio, and our man Drew had showed up. He said, well, we didn't have power in my house, so I just said, let's just go to the studio. So that's why he was there, and we kind of double-teamed it for a little bit and until it passed on. But, yeah, it was just a mix of it's hot air and that cold front that came in, which is why we got this nice weather today. But that's the recipe for it. And I don't know how it blows my mind. I thought all the limbs were blown down about 3 weeks ago.
I know.
And our neighbor lost another big limb. We lost a few limbs. And that was throughout where I lived and here in town, too, in Elk City. And I'm thinking, kind of half-heartedly joking, thinking, I thought all the limbs were down. I thought this was done with. How many? But there's more.
I mean, I really thought that driving to the football field on Saturday morning after what happened Friday night. Like, oh, man, here we are again. And then coming again today. It's like, oh, gosh, they just keep on falling.
There's more, yeah.
Picture on the text line is a truck, brand new truck, that a trampoline hit the windshield of and just smoked it.
Oh, darn.
From 3 doors down. Dang. It was wild. And it was so hot. What do they call those? Downbursts?
Yeah.
It was kind of, people are like, oh, it's a tornado. No, it wasn't a tornado.
No.
But in some ways, it can be worse just because of how freaky it is. I mean, it was nuts.
Let me tell you, I was a little nervous driving.
Well,
I just left, if I left 5 minutes earlier, I would have got to the studio just fine.
Right. Well, I know Kara was dropping Wyatt on Friday night out at Love's, north of town, he hanging out with his grandma. Mm-hmm. And it hit as she was driving back. And you know how you pull it, like if you're on the highway pulling into our neighborhood, mm-hmm. and there's that kind of that island that has a, for in and out mm-hmm. type thing.
Yeah.
And she said she couldn't see.
Couldn't see it.
Couldn't see, and so ended up coming in the out and was just hoping there was nobody coming because they couldn't have seen either.
Right.
So you can get on the road. I mean, it was nuts.
I was scared pulling into the park here, coming off of 7th Street and driving through, because my windshield wipers were going a mile a minute. Couldn't see very much in front of me. Mm-hmm. I was afraid because there's a lot of trees back here.
Something just fall. Yeah,
I was afraid that falling on me, or B, I didn't see it. Something already in the road. So I was really studying the road, thinking, please don't let there be a giant limb here that I can't stop in time for. But fortunately, there wasn't that either. But and then driving home after the storm, man, what a lightning show I got! It was insane. It was insane. Now I don't know what the weather. I think they said there is chances of rain today, but I don't think to that magnitude. I'm looking 30% chance between just of showers between now and 11 a.m. That's about it.
Yeah, so I think it kind of moves out. It doesn't warm up until Wednesday.
But holy moly, tonight's low. They said it could be a record low.
In the 60s for sure.
58, the
Oh, hello.
forecasted low.
Hello.
That's a record low for mid-August, I would guess. That's what Mike Morgan said last night. Chances of record lows. But then we're back to mid-90s on Wednesday, and then 100s on Thursday. So
Yeah, it'd be nice if it
just kind of slowly get cooler.
I was just say it'd be nice if this was Friday.
In 2 weeks? Or this
no,
Friday?
This Friday. Because this Friday I got to be out in the elements.
What's this Friday?
Scrimmage at El Reno, but it's middle school and high school.
Oh, you're heading that way?
Yeah.
To watch
A bunch of helmets with legs run around. The 7th grade Elks. See how that goes, but it looks like it's going to be hot again by the time we get to that portion of the week. But,
yeah.
Anything stand out to you at Media Day?
Just the excitement. The enthusiasm. There's a lot of excitement there. Great to see all the fans show up, parents, and the guys getting hooked in. I mean, it's easy. It's 10 a.m. in the morning to not really think of it as a real practice. But from what I saw, they took it seriously, popped the pads well. Coaches were very, very enthusiastic. And there's a lot of excitement around this program. Why not? After the last 2 years, there should be. So it got me ready to go. I'm ready for some football. And, I'm anxious to see the guys, and we talked to Coach Maynard about this, but the guys who are going to fill in those roles that the seniors had a big role in. And there's a lot of capable guys. Wynn being one of them. I failed to remember how effective he was when he would come in relief, and he was still very effective and made that offense work. The quarterback position, who's taking the snaps, what does that offense look like now? With the new quarterback and the role that they can do with their legs or arm or both. So that's something I think Coach was kind of coy on, kind of like, I don't want to reveal too much what we plan on doing right there, but I'm interested to see that. And then, of course, we know what we got with running back at the running back position. But there's a lot of excitement. I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, the plays look the same. They're just happening in a different way.
Right.
Even with taking snaps out of the shotgun, which is going to be a new wrinkle that you're going to see. And I think just talking to the guys, a couple of the guys with Jaden or Cooper and the offensive linemen, I think they're excited. I think they're anticipating being able to make more big plays. We saw a bunch of them maybe on the ground. The trap plays seem to work for a pretty long gainer almost every time.
Yeah.
Or every game at least once or so. But I think they're anticipating being able to make some bigger plays through the air, still being, a run first, maybe even run second type team, but also using that to their advantage and maybe stretching the field a little bit. So, that's something that I'm excited to see how that kind of transpires as the season wears along, and how more comfortable they get. It's a different offense, sort of, for the third straight year, going from Coach Meadows last year, Zach's first year with Coach Fisher calling the plays, and now Coach Josie coming in to be the offensive coordinator this year. So there's just a little bit of different wrinkle maybe coming in throughout, as it goes. But when Coach Maynard was here the other day, it's still, what's coming. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to be able to stop the run before anything if you're playing defense against the Elks. So you get to see our first kind of see it live for the first time against somebody else. Excuse me, coming up on Friday. And then, of course, a week from Friday, week 0, game 1 of the season down in Altus. But, yeah, I think there's anticipation. I think there's excitement. And I think there's confidence. And to me, it's not a fake. It's not trying to talk yourself into where the program is. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's real, true confidence in what's back, what's coming in to replace, and just where this program is. I think the foundation is solid, and I think these guys really and truly believe in what they're doing and are ready to get the season started. And kind of each year, it just – with Elk City as a program, there's highs, but then there's lows, throughout the years. And I think they're really trying to level that out to where the program itself, we stay high up here as opposed to those big peaks, but also giant valleys. Mm-hmm. I think that's the goal, to iron that out and make it that right in the wave at the top of it instead of having to crash down to be able to build back up. And so I think that's the challenge that, and quite frankly, I don't know how many people around the state think it'll happen. And so that's still that's the cool thing is still be able to have that chip on your shoulder, even coming even after 2 straight semifinal appearances and a district title for the first time in a quarter century last year.
That I think there was that doubt you speak of from outside of the program. I think that was there last year too because of the amount of seniors that were gone, and then they did what they did. So now they're like, okay, well now they can't keep it going. But I think the doubt, there's always going to be doubters, and there's always going to be those haters, and we'll say, well, they can't continue it. But why would you say that after the last 2 years? I think it's pretty evident that there's something going on here that's sustainable. And you talk about the excitement and the confidence. It's hard to start that, especially after what Elk City went through just a few short years ago. But once that started and you can replicate that from the seniors all the way down to the freshmen and even down to the 8th and 7th graders, and they just expect to stay at that high level, I mean, that's easy, in my opinion, to sustain, because if you could have that buy-in of the program, and I think that's what we talked about this last week, I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that excitement, that buy-in of the program, the camaraderie. That was something I saw was cool when they were doing the one-on-one drills and hitting each other and then patting each other on the head, and the other guys, hey, good job, and just everyone just having each other's back. I mean, that's not everywhere either. I mean, it's just not. There's a brotherhood there, and that confidence is through the roof, I think. And what's really cool is that after the way the last year ended, Cushing just doing what they did all year long, they did it to the Elks, and it's easy to hang your head and go, man, that we got beat and we got beat bad. And I think, and good job to the coaching staff, starting with Coach Maynard and everyone else, I'm just guessing here, but I think, like, guys, that was a great, I mean, not a fun way to end the year, but it was a great year. And that's what we can build on. And you don't want to, and that's that game like that, you can lose that confidence. I don't think they have. I'm very excited. Very excited for week 0. And, Altus is going to be a good team, I think. They're going to be a better team than what they have been the last couple of years. Maybe not as dominant as they were when they were, at their peak, but they got their coach back that had them there at that high level. Last time we went to Altus, it was not a fun trip, but should be fun. Anxious to see what we got.
Yeah.
One I'm really circling. Sure, opening game. Sure. I'm really anxious for the return trip to Canadian, Texas. For me. I don't know about you. There's a lot of fun games on this schedule, sure, but that one, for some reason, because that was kind of for me last year when they came back from that deficit, forced overtime, got the win. I thought, all right, this is a team that's going to go somewhere. And they did.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff before that game on Snapchatting, and it was crazy how quickly that felt like a rivalry, just for the first time to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just talking to some of the guys, like and around town or whatever. Yeah, I think I heard that name on Saturday, talking to a few of those guys.
Canadian.
Yeah. What are you excited for? Canadian. Like,
awesome.
The question was, what's the most thing what are you most excited about for this season? And it was going to Canadian. And now just because that game was fun, and I think you're right. It also,
do you think there's a pride, like carrying the flag for the state?
I just think that everyone knew that they were a good team and had been a really good program,
mm-hmm.
and to be able to get that win and the way it happened, I think that was really a gigantic confidence booster. And I think you noticed that because even what happened the next week at Carl Albert, it didn't really derail anything. It was like, gosh, okay, those guys are really good. But, I think they always kind of had that that Canadian win and the way that game went to fall back on to kind of level themselves out throughout the season. And so, and then I think there's always something kind of cool about going to Texas to play high school football, right? I mean, there's been movies made about that.
Yeah, I just watched Friday Night Lights this past weekend.
Exactly. And so there's always something about that. And that stadium is super cool. If you've never been there, that stadium is cool. It's a cool venue. But I think you're right. That's one. And I don't know who made these, who put these in order or whatever, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say the only game that somebody is hosting Carl Albert for homecoming is us. Ouchies.
Well,
maybe not.
I'm sure there's some reasoning behind that, but
it just goes in order. I know when it just so happened that was the game that was slated for that. But
without looking it up, I can't remember the other home games. There's Weatherford,
Bridge Creek.
There's Bridge Creek,
in the non-district, Woodward, Cache. Any of those would have been better.
Yeah, but maybe that's
it just the way
it fell around the date, right?
That's right. And there's always there's always like mass band, senior night, the little kids that play flag football. There's a template to it. It just so happened that game fell where it fell in the order.
I mean, and we're not ripping Hunt or anybody who came up with this plan, but would Bridge Creek would have been more the ideal because it's rodeo weekend and everyone's going to be around home anyway.
Well, that's probably another thing that keeps you from doing it is the rodeo.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
It's still the football game happens, and we'll see what happens.
I'll be quite honest with you. I forgot last year that the Canadian game was the homecoming game until I got to the stadium. Oh, it's homecoming. I was so focused in on the game. You know what I mean? But that's what actually made that game so fun too. It was homecoming. Imagine the homecoming dance is pretty fun after that win.
Oh, no doubt about it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back,
or not take a break.
Yeah, there we go. Now we can. It's odd when that happens. Anyway, when we come back, U.S. Amateur has teed off. I was about to bring something to the air, and I'm glad I didn't because the scoring has been corrected for one of the OU guys. Very first hole, originally it had Drew Goodman with a hole-in-one on the par 4 first.
Whoa.
It's not the case. We'll be back. It's almost here.
In motion is Patton. It's going to be that trap play to Garbarino up the middle. That's a 30, 35-40, 45-50, 45-40, 35-30, 25-20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Big Elks! Cooper Garbarino, 77 yards.
We're closing in on the start of Big Elk football, which means Big Elk TV will be on the air before you know it.
Wynn and Garza are the running backs. Jones under center. Austin, snap, turn, hand off to Wynn. Jaden piles toward. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks.
You'll be able to watch and see if Coach Maynard's brown and white clad Elks can continue their winning ways.
Snap back, play action, lobs it toward the end zone. He's got a man. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks. Tucker Garza.
To get your business on the Big Elk TV screen, call 225-9696 or stop by our office at 220 South Pioneers.
The Skinny on Sports.
But is having this minor skill worth being so unattractive? That's for the fan to decide. Yay!
Welcome back, Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Don't forget, Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em. Sign up. You still got a few weeks before that thing starts. September the 1st is the date. Or 2nd. Should be the 2nd, unless there's a Friday night game that we're picking.
I could look.
But anyhow, we've got it posted on our Skinny on Sports Facebook page. There's a link right to our group. Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em 2023 is the name of the group. So if you find that link, you can click it and get signed up. Awesome prizes this year with an $800 prize pool. $400 for first, $200 for second, $100 for third, And then if you're just terrible at this game, you still have a chance to win $100 too, because we're going to give $100 to the last place finisher that picks all the games. So you can't just sign up, don't pick, and expect to get $100.
It appears
That's not the way it's going to happen.
All the games in the first week are on Saturday the 2nd.
The 2nd, okay. Yeah, it just has the event dates on the deal, say 9/1 to 12/3.
Yeah.
So it's all season long. Picks contest. It's against the spread. So you pick from Labor Day weekend to Conference Championship Saturday. And at that point, whoever is out on top, and second and third and dead last, will win. And we appreciate Tyler, Robbie, all the gang down at Western Oklahoma Realty. People before property is their motto. Give them a call at 225-6271. U.S. Amateur starts today, Jared, and there is some local flavor, some OU guys that are either already have played for Oklahoma or, like Ryder Cowan is there as well. We had him on the show the other day, a week or so ago, or 2 weeks now, I guess. But Ryder doesn't tee off until this afternoon at 1:47. I assume that's Mountain Time. Yep, it is. So it would be 2:47 our time. He's playing at Colorado Golf Club. Cherry Hills is the actual host, but there's 312 guys. You've got 36 holes of stroke play to whittle the field down to 64-team match play bracket, and from there, the match play takes over. I think there's 5 guys that are either are or will be Sooners in the group there at Cherry Hills, and also a name that's familiar around here if anybody plays the KECO tournament, Bobby Massa. He's the one that hits it forever long and really hit the –
Is he the reason why we moved the tee box back?
Part of it, and he literally hit the shot of the tournament this year.
That the one that
on number 16 when he drove the green. Flew it on the green, and then his team made the putt for eagle, and that kind of was the difference.
And he thought he overhit it.
Yeah, get down. He hit it. He hit his tee shot and yelled, "Get down," on a par 4. And instead, it flew it right in the middle of the green. They made it about a 30-footer.
Awesome.
So he is actually on the golf course. He's 3 over. Just made a double bogey on number 3. Drew Goodman, one of the OU guys from Norman, he is even par through a couple holes. Like I said, Ryder didn't tee off till way later in the afternoon. So something to watch for. See how many of these guys with local ties can get through into the match play bracket. I mean, 1 out of every 5 guys is going to make it with 312 starting, and you've got 64 that make it through. It's basically 1 out of every 5. So it'll be fun to watch up there at Cherry Hills, one of the premier, the premier amateur golf event in the country. NFL preseason, anything stick out to you here as all the teams have now played a preseason game? Is there anything that caught your eye over the weekend with the way that went down?
It's so hard to gauge anything after week 1 of a preseason. I'm intrigued by, and we'll talk about one of them, but the quarterbacks, the ones that we thought would be good are the ones we didn't really know about are more impressive than what we thought. And I think that has something to do with it when people are talking about the other guy and like, well, we don't expect much out of this guy. He was good in college, but he can't really be good in the NFL. Like, well, no pressure on me. They don't expect anything out of me. He plays good. I'm talking about Stetson Bennett, obviously. I'm loving the quarterback battle in Tampa Bay. It's very intriguing to me, obviously because of Baker Mayfield and his Oklahoma ties. But he just comes in, has a nice drive, caps it off with the touchdown, helped out by a great grab, but still – very poised and calm, and for playing behind an offensive line, that subject, it looked pretty good to me, and he had all the right answers, too, in postgame. I'm intrigued about that. Doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things of the NFL and who's going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but it's just I just find that stuff fascinating. But again, I mean, people will overreact about things. People will, like myself, try not to react, and that's what I'm trying not to do. It's week 1. It's preseason. I'm not going crazy, but I think the storylines are starting to right themselves as we move along and we get closer to kickoff in week 1.
Yeah, it's hard not to jump off the cliff when you watch that Cowboys offense to start and the change with McCarthy calling the plays and just how lackluster and almost lifeless it seemed And then all of a sudden Deuce Vaughn makes a couple of cool runs, and you're like, all right, now never mind.
Well, I mean,
it'll look better when the real guys get out there.
And I kept telling myself, it's preseason. I mean, that's why I'm not I'm not saying you're overreacting. I'm just saying that's why I had it on in the background. I'm like, okay, Cowboys are on. I'll turn it on. I got to get back to cleaning the garage here. But I wasn't going crazy. But it was fun to see Deuce Vaughn do his stuff, and Cowboys try to make a push there at the end. But, I mean, you got the stars wearing their jerseys and no pads and street clothes. I want to see more. Now, I was surprised with some players that did play in other games. Didn't Mahomes take a few snaps?
Yeah, Mahomes was out there.
He played. Wilson played in Denver. I think that's good, especially for Wilson. He needs all the snaps he can get, especially with a new coach. I think that's important, too, to get both on the same page. So there was some intrigue there. But, the Dallas thing, I don't know. I mean, let's see moving forward what we got. But it does make you worry a little bit with McCarthy.
Yeah, it's just the unknown.
Yeah.
It really is. It's easy to form opinions off of what you saw based on what you thought.
Yeah.
You can let those things get cemented in your mind when, come on, it's preseason and it's hard to judge because it's just hard to tell who out there is really an NFL player and who's not with the different lineups. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Once you get to and it's so much different now because the games have been slashed down too, and so now that formula that was always there isn't there as much anymore because there's not as many times that you get to see your team play these games. And I get why. Obviously, the injury part of this and forcing these guys to play extra preseason games that maybe they don't need to goes into it. But at the end of the day, I think if you believe something or you think something about a team or a player and that team or player reinforce that idea this weekend, you'll take a whole bunch of stock into the preseason. If it went the other way, you're liable to go, it's just preseason.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you could go one way or the other.
I mean, if you really thought that McCarthy's going to be a disaster calling the plays in Dallas, and then you watch the first part of that game, you went, told you so. Look at this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the ESPN alert that Smith going crazy. What's his name?
What are you talking
He
about?
hates Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, Stephen A.
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
I'll call him J.A. Smith. I don't know why I got that mixed up.
Yeah, Stephen A.
He will go crazy today. He will go crazy on First Take. And we're going to get the messages on our phone. But it's just the overreaction of it. But like last year's a great example. I thought the punt returner, kick returner for Dallas was going to be a superstar.
Kevontae Turpin.
Turpin, yeah. People and I overreacted to that. Like, give me the jersey. I'm ready to go. This is going to be the next superstar. He's going to be a Deion Sanders type electric returner. And I can't remember anything in the regular season that he did. I mean, he had some nice returns, but nothing like he did in the preseason.
And at the same time, though, some of this stuff is real. Because some of this stuff, you'll go back and go, golly, we saw it coming in preseason. It's just hard to sift through all of it to figure out what exactly it is. And one of those things to me is Stetson Bennett. 17 of 29, threw for 191 yards and a touchdown against the Chargers for the Rams. Is he an NFL quarterback?
So hard to say after one game. But it goes back to what I said. No one was looking at him this weekend. They were looking at the top guys that were taken. But he looked good. He looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to fly off the handle, you could say, Stetson Bennett is better than any of those guys taken in the first round with Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. I don't know that anybody wants to fly off that handle just yet. But so why? Is there any specific reason outside of well, he was a walk-on at Georgia, for people not to think that he can play in the NFL?
I think people thought anybody with the ability to play quarterback, a D1 ability to play quarterback, could have gone to Georgia and had that success because of all the pieces around him. So I think that's why there's a bunch of doubt to why he could not be a NFL quarterback. That's what I think. I think people thought if you could take the start, you can get a walk-on to go into Georgia with all those talented pieces, with awesome team, and win it. I mean, you could take the quarterback one from Vanderbilt and plug him in there. You could take the quarterback one from, give me a mid-whatever team, Boise State, whatever, and then go in there and have that success too. So, he's probably used to having that doubt. He's probably heard that his entire college career there. Like, yeah, you're a good quarterback, but you're on Georgia. You play for Georgia, right? I'll admit, I've had those doubts about some Alabama quarterbacks. I thought, yeah, you're a great quarterback, or a good quarterback for a great team.
Yeah, I don't mind that the first year. But last year, it was just, I think it's just one of those things that, I think you're exactly right. Just like, oh my gosh, anybody could have won with that team. Well, when you go back to watch that Ohio State game.
Yeah.
When everything was going against them, and watch him lead that team back.
Yeah.
And then there's the demolition of TCU. It gets underrated, I think, just because of how bad it got. I'm not so sure that he can't play. And I think he's in the perfect spot with Sean McVay. And I think he's better than what anybody thought. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but I think he's a guy that's definitely hanging around and holding the clipboard, if not going to get a chance to prove that he's a starter in the league. And he might just be able to do it. I think he's more naturally talented than anybody wants to give him credit for right now because of, like you said, the team that he was on. I'll tell you this. One thing that it's going to be one of these two things that you can take out of the other day. Either the Jets' pass rush is the most ferocious thing on earth, or Carolina is going to get Bryce Young killed with that terrible offensive line. One of those two things is going to be true, if not both.
It could be a little bit of both. It could be a little bit of both. Now, that Jets defense is going to be really good.
It was good last year.
You think about the secondary for the Jets, which is solid. And maybe they looked really good because there was a lot of forced passes and rush passes by the defensive line. That's exactly. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the secondary for the Jets. Again, I think they're really good. But it's a perfect combination. You get a quarterback scrambling for his life, making wild throws. That makes a cornerback and safety's job a lot easier.
No, you betcha.
Yeah, the talk will be Aaron Rodgers, but the Jets defense might be really good.
It was good last year. It was one of the better ones, and you just see what those guys. I mean, man, they were back there, and in its depth too. It's not just like they had their starters out there. It was other guys that are going to come in. The Will McDonald's from Iowa State, Jermaine Johnson, Florida State. Go with Quinnen Williams up. I mean, that defense, that defensive front, and being able to get to the quarterback in a division that if you don't, you're going to get lit by Buffalo and Miami and the way that they can play offense. You're right. The talk is Rodgers. The talk is going to be that offense and how they can, get better from last year. But that defense might end up being the real story by the time the Jets season is all said and done. We'll start thinking about division winners and playoff in a couple. I mean, we're still quite a ways from that.
Yeah,
want to see
trying not to overreact.
Well,
yeah,
and here's the truth. You look at these scores, Do you think that the Raiders are 4 touchdowns better than the 49ers?
Of course not. But there are those people who are overreacting about Lance.
Listen,
already calling him a bust. We got it right here on the text line.
I don't disagree with that. What has he shown you to say he's not?
Yeah. What about Green Bay on Friday night? I got to watch some of that before the power went out. Jordan Love looked okay. I mean, 7 out of 10, had a touchdown. I mean, he's the guy, and everyone's ready to write off Green Bay now. Aaron Rodgers is gone, and how that division's got a little better. I don't know. I mean, am I maybe not ready to write him off just yet?
Yeah.
I mean, you got Trey Lance, for example, on one side as the next guy in San Francisco. The next guy in Green Bay is finally going to get the snaps, finally going to get the spotlight, and that's Jordan Love. And I thought he looked okay.
We'll see.
That's the approach this preseason.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We will see. I mean, you'll get to see more. You know, obviously the buzz around the Bears is off the charts with Justin Fields making 2 throws that went a combined, 8 yards in the air that led to a 70-something yard touchdown and a 60. But here's the deal. Last year, what was the knock on the Bears? Get him some help. Get him some playmakers. Well, DJ Moore catches 1 pass for a 62-yard touchdown. Khalil Herbert catches 1 for a 56-yard touchdown. And then it's like, okay, here we go. I think that division is interesting because everyone always sleeps on or forgets about Minnesota because, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback. And all they do is just be one of the more consistent teams year in, year out in the NFL. But everybody's always wanting to put somebody else there. And now that Rodgers is gone, that gets even more apparent with the Lions, the Bears, and then, like you said, maybe the Packers aren't going anywhere. But then you just got the Vikings up there just kind of doing what they always do. The Bears look fun, though. I will say that. Fields is fun. He was my favorite of those that came out in that draft. And if he can figure out, we know he can run, obviously. But if Moore and Herbert or whoever else on the outside can start to make some plays for him in the passing game, and he can really show off that he can be that guy in the pocket too, you got something. And it starts to get a lot of fun with the monsters at the midway from there.
Topics that we could talk about in the future outside of Aaron Rodgers, veteran quarterbacks at new homes. Who do you think will be good and who won't?
Yeah,
I got a couple in mind.
I do too.
Well, really just one topic that's really come to my mind. That one. That's. I mean, we always talk about the rookie quarterbacks. What about the guys wearing new helmets?
That have actually proven something in the league.
Yeah. There's some of those out there that there's one in particular I like. We could probably talk about that later.
I bet you it's Derek Carr in New Orleans.
And the Raven streak continues.
Is that like 24 straight?
Something like that in preseason wins. Yes.
Incredible. All right, we'll be back to wrap it up here in the Skinny on Sports. It's almost here.
In motion is Patton. It's going to be that trap play to Garbarino up the middle. That's a 30, 35-40, 45-50, 45-40, 35-30, 25-20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Big Elks! Cooper Garbarino, 77 yards.
We're closing in on the start of Big Elk football, which means Big Elk TV will be on the air before you know it.
Wynn and Garza are the running backs. Jones under center. Austin, snap, turn, hand off to Wynn. Jaden piles toward. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks.
You'll be able to watch and see if Coach Maynard's brown and white clad Elks can continue their winning ways.
Snap back, play action, lobs it toward the end zone. He's got a man. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks. Tucker Garza.
To get your business on the Big Elk TV screen, call 225-9696 or stop by our office at 220 South Pioneer.
The Skinny on Sports.
All right, welcome back. Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Wrapping it up here on a Monday with recruiting. 3 o'clock this afternoon, the number one player in what I think it's on 3's or 247's list, Williams Winery, defensive line, Missouri, Lee Summit High School. will be making his choice. It appears that it's down to Oklahoma and Mizzou for his services, or at least for his commitment right now. It's been pretty wild back and forth over the weekend. You've got people on both sides that trust their information. And when I say people, I mean the guys that actually do this
right
for a living and kind of have a little bit of skin in the game as far as their reputations, I guess you could say, or their, for being able to be correct. I think a bunch of Oklahoma fans have PTSD on a lot of this stuff, from Gabe Dindy to David Hicks, and now could it be a third year in a row with Will Winery when it seemed like Oklahoma was in great shape early on, or really throughout the entire process until the very end? Here's my deal. One, I can't believe, unless his family absolutely want him to stay close to home, which I know he said that proximity is a factor to a certain extent. Even if he puts on that Missouri hat today, I won't believe he's really going to Missouri until the ink is dry on his signature in December. Because here's the problem for Mizzou. They still have to play. They still have to play football. And they still have to play football in the SEC against that schedule that they've got. Whereas Oklahoma still has to play football, but they get to play football against maybe the easiest schedule in the history of the program. I think that's a huge advantage for Oklahoma, even if it doesn't, if today doesn't go their way. I just have a hard time believing the number one player in the nation's choosing Missouri with where that program is right now.
Right. Then there's always going to be the speculation of, well, Missouri they've found a better NIL deal or whatever. But I'm with you. Today's announcement doesn't mean it's set in stone.
For anybody.
Anybody, yeah. And that's a cautionary tale because OU's done really well on the recruiting trail. Doesn't mean they're going to be there in December, right? A lot can change. What if the season is a disaster for OU?
Oh, yeah. Well, if it is, then this is moot anyway.
Yeah. So, it'd be real interesting to see. But on the other side, like I just said, if he picks OU, doesn't mean he still can be here. But there is a lot of smoke to parents, specifically mom, wants him closer to home. But
that's the.
But what OU has working for him is, hey, mom, no worries, we're in the SEC too. Yeah,
it just seemed like Oklahoma's been the favorite throughout this thing.
Yeah,
and now all of a sudden, what has changed, or is it just a bunch of smoke? And nothing's really changed. It's just
maybe that's the point to all this. Maybe he's like, hey, go tell him I'm going to Missouri. I want the people to start talking about me. I want people to really tune in at 3:00 today to see what happens.
Two things to be looking for throughout the day, if you're really interested in this. One, if either Steve Wiltfong or Parker Thune changes their crystal ball prediction from right now moving forward. Because both of those guys have done that. And this is kind of a battle. These two are on different sides of the Peyton Bowen craziness at the end last year. And Parker turned out to be right.
That is true.
So this could be one of those, like could this be sort of the passing of the torch?
Who gets it right?
Who gets it right? Who gets it wrong? A lot of time. I think people think, and rightfully so, if you look at his percentage The one thing I'm scared that when Wiltfong changes, a lot of times that's not good. That's good news for whoever he changed to, which was last night, Missouri. Where there's a little bit more flip-flopping around on that side of it than there is on the other. But it's a huge day, honestly, because this is the type of dude that Oklahoma has to be able to reel in if you're going to compete in the SEC. It just is. And you've got David Stone coming up in a couple of weeks that's from Oklahoma, plays at IMG. These are guys that Oklahoma has to be able to close on, and if they don't, the Todd Bates and maybe even spills over to Brent Venables a little bit, hate will continue. Can't close. 3 years in a row. You can't close on these guys that it's imperative to close on if you want to have success in that league, because everybody else has them. The defensive line, anybody can watch. And doesn't have to be Vince Lombardi to tell that Oklahoma needs to improve specifically on the line of scrimmage and even more specifically on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage. So we'll be able to talk about it tomorrow. And you have a lean. What do you think happens today?
Well, after reaching out to, I'll call him my Sooner recruiter guy, kind of like Jim has a Thunder guy.
Yeah.
I asked him, have you heard, because he was blowing up my phone yesterday with all this swap news and everything. I asked him, have you heard anything, and this was like 10 minutes ago, have you heard anything new? He said, nope, supposedly he hasn't told OU coaches that he's picking Missouri. Williams and OU coaches actually talked last night, according to some. And again, take this with a grain of salt. It's he said who told this guy, who told this guy. So it's just all word of mouth. But I didn't see a tweet about this, so I don't know where he's heard this, but he said Parker Thune says he's sticking with his pick to OU and says nothing has changed with his sources. So, and, this guy has been right a lot, this guy that's been giving me this information. And so I'm going to stick with that. I think it's a lot of smoke. I think it's to get a lot of attention, to get a lot of people to click and view this thing at 3 o'clock. I think it is going to be streamed from what I saw. I feel like it's going to be OU. Don't ask me if I'm 100% sure it's going to be OU. I never am on this stuff. But I see all this stuff and I think, well, who are these sources with these sources? Who are these guys? Who are, are they calling the guy? Are they calling the recruit directly to get his pulse? Is it the water boy? Where are they hearing this stuff? It's amazing to me, though. But the guys like Wiltfong and Thune, they get it right a lot. So you kind of, and then there's, it goes all the way up to the higher level, like with Schefter and, Woj. That they get it right too a lot. But that's at a different level. Well, and they're talking to agents and stuff.
Well, truth is, you might have agents here too.
That's true too. The agent might be mom.
With the NIL stuff. I bet he picks Missouri today and signs with Oklahoma in December.
All right. I was hoping you wouldn't say that. I was trying to get a breakfast burrito out of you. But that wouldn't work in that scenario.
I think that's what's going to happen. And the meltdown will be tremendous on the message boards and Twitter by the OU fan base, and eventually it'll come back around, because I do think that at the end of the day, relationships are going to win out, and he has better relationships with the people in Oklahoma. One of his teammates is Caden Green, is an offensive lineman that'll be a freshman this year. He's got another teammate, Isaiah Mosey, that's a year younger than him, receiver that almost everybody thinks is going to Oklahoma. PJ Adebaware, that's already there at OU. They're good buddies, kind of have the same background. I just think eventually those, and if Missouri isn't any good, would certainly help the cause for Oklahoma at the end of this too. I just don't believe. I just don't believe. Unless, there's another, Ryan Wingo is a receiver that's in the top 20 nationally, kind of from, not in the same school, but in Missouri. Is there that draw of, hey, let's stay home and turn this around? Maybe that does, and maybe that's what mom's thinking too, wanting close to home. But we'll talk about it all tomorrow. Enjoyed it. We'll have another day tomorrow on Skinny on Sports.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.
That ball is blistered